It is budget season at Skookum Kids, which is everyone's favorite time of the year. Probably not everyone's, but mine at least. So I wanted to give you an overview of how we go about writing a budget and what we expect to be in our budget this year. First, we start by having the managers, there's 3 of them at Skookum, each fill out a budget request. The 3 managers at Skookum are Ryan Burke, who oversees our foster care operations, which we call Skookum Parents, and Abby Smith, who is in charge of Skookum House and our supporting programs, and Kyle Fugier, who's in charge at Perch and Play and of operations. And of course, I also do a budget request form that includes payroll and then anything that doesn't fit neatly in the bucket of one of the other managers. So each of those folks get from our bookkeeper form that lists what their budget was last year, what their actual spending was, and then it has a blank where they supply the number for their budget request for this year, and then it asks them for 2 narratives. One is to explain any deviation between their budget and their spending, and 2, any change from last year's budget to this year. So, sort of justify why they're asking for what they're asking for. Now, of course, this isn't the first time that they've seen a comparison of budget versus actuals. They get that regularly on a schedule, but we put all that stuff in one place on the budget request form so that you can see it while you're considering what should I request. And then when those come back to bookkeeper and we assemble what we call budget version A, which is what everyone requested with no cuts. Skookum Kids budget goes through several different versions, usually somewhere between 3 and 7 versions in a year. And the versions prior to board approval get letters, and the versions after board approval, like if there's a modification mid-year or something, those get numbers. For example, this year, current year 2018, we had budget versions A through D, and then the board approved version D, and then we had a budget version 0 and a budget version 1. So that means there were 4 versions before the board approved it, and then we made 1 change mid-year. So our budget version A is like our pie in the sky, like if we could do everything we wanted and we could afford to do everything that we want to do, that is budget version A. So after we have the spending side of budget version A, then what we're doing this year is 2 teams working independent of one another, each built projections for revenue. The 2 teams are our bookkeeper, David, and myself worked together, and then the treasurer of our board, Alan Artman, who's also the CFO at Faith Life, he and Kyle, who's our business manager, the 2 of them worked together. And those 2 teams of 2, each worked independently to build a revenue projection, and then we reconciled those 2 revenue projections. We got the 2 teams together and then debated about why'd you put that number there and why'd you put that number there, and kind of came to a sort of middle ground on our revenue projections. And then after we do that, that's when it gets hard. Because when we have a solid revenue projection and we have a solid expense side budget version A, then we have to make hard decisions. Then we have to make hard decisions about, okay, which of these really good, necessary ideas are we going to cancel or delay because we don't think we're going to have the money? And that is the not fun part of budgeting. And we're right in the middle of that right now. But I have to say, Skookum has fewer hard budgeting decisions to make because of you. Because more than 100 of you have committed to support Skookum monthly. You give, and your giving makes it so that we can do a lot of the things that organizations like us don't have the opportunity to experiment with and to try. You make it so that we have fewer difficult budgeting decisions to make. So thank you. And if you are wanting to know how to get involved at Skookum, how to participate in foster care, one of the easiest and what feels like today most impactful ways that you can be involved is to make a pledge of ongoing financial support. When you do that, and like I say, more than 100 people have done that, committed to support us financially month over month, many of them for multiple years. When you do that, it allows us the freedom and flexibility, one, to plan our budget with confidence, knowing that the giving is going to be there to fund these really important activities, caring for kids and pairing them with the right foster home, and etc. And it allows us to grow and experiment in some really exciting ways. That's how Skookum's been able to grow by a factor of 4 or 5 every year, because people like you choose to support us faithfully month over month. So if you want to do that, skookumkids.org/give. You can set it up right there. It'll happen automatically if you wanted to. You can change it or cancel it or modify it, whatever, anytime you want. So wish us luck as we finish the budget. We present to the board end of next week, so this is really right in the middle of it right now. And thank you in advance for your support.